Alright, so in today's video, I finally got the Platinum Trophy on Persona 5 Royal. This game, if you don't know, is pretty revolutionary in terms of storytelling, music, gameplay, all of the above. It's also one of the highest suggested games I've ever gotten. And that's because the music from this game I frequently use in my videos since it's just perfect background music. Which is why when playing this today and hearing those songs I hear every single time when editing these, it was almost nostalgic in a weird sense. But Persona 5 Royal contains 53 total trophies and has an estimated time of completion coming in at 120 hours. Good lord above, why do you make me suffer? Anyways, this is also a part of a challenge I've been doing, trying to platinum over 100 games suggested by viewers of the channel. And if I can't complete all of these before hitting 850,000 subscribers, then I have to shave my head and look like a base character from a video game. So drop a like and subscribe. Anyways, there's multiple stages to this platinum, but the story flows in a very linear way, so you won't really miss any trophies because nothing is necessarily missable from the story, aside from one thing in particular, and that is to rank up the counselor to 10, but we aren't even close to that for now, so let's just focus on the game's intro and beginning palace. It opens up with a cutscene showing our main character we play as being named Joker, breaking into a casino to rob it for his treasure. This also serves as the game's tutorial, showing us how to move, parkour, and even do the combat in the game. Persona 5 Royale's combat features a turn-based move selection, a lot like many other games of its kind, but at one point in the intro we also meet up with another side character, and it's a woman. Hell yeah. We then fought together once more before the intro basically ends with a cutscene showing Joker break out of the casino, only to fall right into the hands of the police because he was sold out by one of his friends. And so the drama begins. We then see Joker in an interrogation room getting beat on because he's a criminal. That is before our lawyer, in a sense, comes in to ask us what happened and confirm the story. And this is where the game really kicks off because this all happened in the future and we are now going back into the past to see what leads up to it. Yup, it's one of those games. But basically the plot for this game is we got framed beating up some politician dude who essentially ruined our young life, and we then get sent to another city away from home and forced to live with a random ass dude that said he would take us in. Also, it's set in the high school years of Joker's life, just so you know, which is why we go to school and stuff a lot. And that's also the main thing we do in this game's intro. Go to school. Except on the very first day, once we met the first friend of Joker's in the game, we got sent to a palace. Now a palace is kind of just an alternate world taking place in the same area of the real world, except usually with vast differences and no real people inside of it. And since we are not supposed to be here because we kind of just fell into it on accident, we got thrown in jail by the magical palace guards. We would then see the ruler of this palace, and it's actually the school's gym teacher and coach, which is just weird as hell. And he was trying to execute us basically, but that made Joker develop his first persona of the game and give him mystical powers. This is also how you typically develop a persona in this game's universe, through traumatic and almost life-ending moments. A persona, you might be asking, is kind of just a costume or alternate version of yourself that is much stronger and each have their own different combat moves. Joker's first persona was called Arsense or something like that, and I got the first trophy of the game after we became such a creature. We then had to find a way out of this palace to avoid dying, you know, like you do, and there was minimal combat on the way out because we found a talking little cat named Morgana who knows everything there is to know about this alternate world apparently. And he is also our guide for this game, as you would guess. And he helped us escape the palace, landing in reality once more. But we did miss school on the first day, a true tragedy. The game's direction begins the first of many cycles with us going to school during the day, then after going into the palace to investigate it and figure out how to stop the evil gym teacher from doing what he's doing. After a little bit, we found out that he takes kids into the palace and basically tortures them to make them better at sports and help the school win. Also, he's extremely perverted towards the girls in the school, and that is just wrong, like on so many levels.
That's what I'm saying.
At one point, we also befriended a girl named Anne, who is another side character and helps us out throughout the game. She's also the lead volleyball girl and the apparent attraction for our gym teacher boy here. Therapy will be needed in the future. In this palace, as I got further into it, we did have to do our first little bit of puzzles because that actually takes a big place in the game's gameplay. And I hate puzzles, but this first one wasn't hard at all compared to those later on in the game. And during some combat after, I got another trophy, but it was from obtaining my first additional persona. And this is a big part of the game because you can steal personas from enemies you've broken down and then use them to upgrade your character and fuse skills. But doing it for the first time did get me a trophy. A few moments after that, I also unlocked the grappling hook, which is a key part in traversing this game's palaces because they never make it easy to get where you need to go to. And after using it for the first time, I got a trophy pop right here. Now, since this is the first palace, it was quite long because they just kept on introducing new things that are staples in the game. And one of those was these like corrupted enemies that if you kill in a certain way will blow up and damage, usually killing their enemy counterparts. After I did that the first time, it was also another trophy, by the way. But aside from all of those new things in this beginning stage of the game, I was also getting introduced to a lot of story and side activities you can do in the real world, both for money and for social skills, which is a very grindy trophy. You have to raise all 5 skills to max, which takes quite some time. However, one of those activities that raises kindness is to just clean the shop that we live above. And after I did it for the first time, I also got a trophy pop. I then reached the final parts of the first palace. And for some more structure, the palaces work in 2 ways. The first real step is to steal the treasure, as they call it, and for this palace it was a giant golden crown. The next step is to defeat the boss man himself in a giant fight. The fights are usually not too bad because the main challenge with the palaces is just getting to them, but they are by no means a cakewalk most of the time. However, after beating the boss, you then have to wait until the deadline is up for anything else to happen, and that's just because the game gives you a set amount of time to accomplish defeating the boss. But I always did it right away just to get it over with, like most people do as well. And after beating the boss, you also defeat that person's evil in them, which is why we are waiting for the change of heart, as the game says. And while waiting for that, it's now the perfect time to go grind some skills and social stats. I also got a trophy here from hitting a baseball, so that's definitely something. And another big part of this game is to raise confidence levels with your friends, which just makes you closer to them. And it also unlocks very helpful skills in the future. But when I was raising the blonde kid's level that we met first in the game, we became good enough friends that he invited me to go hang out at some place in the city. And I got a trophy from going to a dedicated hangout location, as the game calls it. But a few days later, the change of heart day finally came, and we saw a cutscene like you always do, showing the person we defeated kinda just lose it completely. The gym teacher admitted to basically being EDP445, a horrible person, and he is now depressed. Maybe we are evil, dude, Jesus. But I got a trophy, I'm just kidding, he definitely deserved it. The gang then threw a little party, and we also formed a team for what we do called the Phantom Thieves. However, we got to give ourselves a name on the low, and I chose the Rizzles. Don't ask me why, I am severely brain rotted. But that was also another trophy giving action. After the first palace, the game then got open to the floodgates, and it's kind of just off and rolling for good. Another new thing that got introduced was called mementos, and it's a sort of infinite underground combat thing in this game. It doesn't serve a massive purpose, but it's more just for fun and easy leveling. And I got a trophy down there for the first time from triggering a technical move, which is just when you attack or defeat an enemy that is affected by a sort of debuff. So it's very easy, and here's the trophy. In the mementos, you also get a lot of requests, as the game calls it, and these are just side missions that have you go find some evil person and then fight them to the death down here. After doing that for my first time, I also got another trophy, as you would expect. The game then went into a bit of a downtime and slower flow because we are now in between palaces, which gives us time to really grind skills, like I've said earlier, and that's a sort of cycle to how you play this game if you can't tell. I also, as you have seen, get most of my trophies during this time of game, and I got one right here from doing a shift at a part-time job within the game. A bit later, I then got sent to a prison world, which is where Joker kind of has a cell in, but there's this dude who runs it and gives us the persona powers we need. He also lets us do the whole fusing of personas in this place as well, which gives you greater power, but nothing comes without a sacrifice, and I mean that quite literally, because to make a persona, you have to combine at least 2 together through an execution, and I did that for the first time right here, getting a trophy. We were then on to the next palace finally, and it was the Museum Palace. This one has us after a famous artist who steals work from others, lies, berates, and is overall just another not good person with a lot of power. Funny how that's always the case, isn't it? But anyways, I got a trophy during the cycle of the palace from obtaining a treasure demon. These are a type of persona that is almost only encountered from stealing treasure and just being jump scared by them appearing instead of loot. But to capture one, you just weaken it like normal and then steal it. Very simple. In the same palace, I was then doing more combat later on because that is a common occurrence, seeing as I have 0 patience for stealth. But I performed my first baton pass, and this is a special move that increases stats every time you do it within your team more and more. So it's very good for performing ultimate attacks and getting a trophy as well. After some more playing, we then returned back to the real world once we found the museum's treasure and getting the objective of sending the calling card. The calling card is a sort of invitation to the bad guy that tells them, or rather shows them, that we know their darkest secrets, and it also just pisses them off, which draws them out for the boss fight. But I got another new execution style unlocked in the jail world, and it's from using an electric chair on a persona, which yields you items. And after I did it for the first time, guess what? I got a trophy. We then boss fight the guy we have been after, and it was a very easy boss fight compared to others, so that's cool. And here's him getting crippled in defeat. But as usual, we now have to wait quite some time before finishing the palace officially and getting the trophy. However, I got a different trophy while waiting from actually winning the lottery. It was only like $3, but still, it was a trophy. Anyways, the next trophy I got was the palace's conclusion, like I mentioned. The dude apologized, exposed himself, and yeah, that's one more bad man down. Many more to go. I then did a really random trophy from visiting a temple in this game for relaxation purposes, I guess. I also got a trophy from playing darts with friends, a game of billiards, billiards or pool with friends, and overheating in the bathhouse with just myself and random other dudes. But the next palace was about the mafia this time, and I honestly can't really remember this one that well because I found it kind of boring. Oh my god! You know, a mafia is very typical and has been portrayed a million times. Like, we already know that they're bad dudes, come on. However, during the mafia palace, I performed my first showtime move. Now, I'm honestly not sure what causes this to happen, but you just get the prompt at certain times in a fight, and the characters then perform a very cool and very effective hit on the enemies, which usually kills them. So that's kind of fire, I can't lie. Anyways, before fighting the mafia boss, I got another trophy in the jail world again, and it was from performing an execution while a fusion alarm is happening. This is a random occurrence in the game. It can even give you extra buffs if personas are fused during the alarm, but I got a trophy from doing it for the first time like usual. We then had to fight the mafia boss like I mentioned, and this is kind of the only boss fight so far that it's been a tad bit hard, but that's mostly because a lot of attacks don't work on this fight, seeing as we are literally battling a giant safe. How is this real life? Oh wait, it's not. But after defeating it, I then had to wait 14 days before anything else happened in the story, which is insane. I don't even know where I was 14 days ago, but if I had to guess, it was probably cozying up with your mother. Anyways, some trophies I got during the wait period was one from selling trashed clothing items to the secondhand shop. Then I did a bit more of a complex one. It was from obtaining a skill accessory from a palace ruler. And this is done from grabbing these 3 special collectibles within the palace, then giving them to this kid who runs the memento shop in exchange for the accessory. So I did that, and here's a trophy. In this place, there's also numerous trophies, by the way, 2 of which are very easy to get in the shop he has as well. First, from spending flowers, which is a type of loot down here for an item, and then from using stamps, which is another type of loot to buy a permanent upgrade for your character as well. And by the way, there was a giant slow period right now because, as I've said, we have to wait 14 days until the palace ends. So I grinded the hell out of a lot of trophies. And I got another one a while later on from modifying a gun for the first time, which is very helpful in making your character not die as you'd expect. But then finally, after literally hours of waiting, the day of arrival came and the mafia palace was finished, with us taking down them and the bank that they were running. The next palace is now the pyramid palace, and this one has some of the most annoying puzzles in it out of any palace in the entire game. It also took me forever to figure them out and caused a lot of trauma for my innocent brain. But I also got a trophy during this stage of game from doing a gallows execution, which is just yet again another new execution type in the jail world, and here's that trophy. And aside from the pyramid palace having super annoying ass puzzles and level direction, there was also quite an annoying fight against the boss, which was right here. And it was against this very cursed flying woman, I think. I mean, who knows nowadays? But you actually had to just kind of damage her as much as you could while other characters got this giant crossbow ready to fire to really do some serious damage. And the fight did take me a few tries to get because I died a few times, which is tragic. However, I did still win like usual, and we are keeping up with the cycle of this game nicely. Sadly, however, I would get 0 trophies until the palace was finished completely, which is disappointing. But here's that trophy anyways for taking down another bad person in society. Right after that though, I would get a trophy from yet again another main world activity, and it was from attending a jazz nightclub for real professionals. About half an hour later, I then got a trophy from finally, and I mean finally, reaching level 9 of 10 with a female character. And I chose to do this with Anne because she was the first girl introduced and easy to raise this level with. Upon reaching 9 with a girl character, you can also get into a relationship with them for a trophy, which I apparently did. I also caught a fish for another trophy. Yes, I know, that's completely random, but it did happen. And speaking of random trophies, I also won at the Crane arcade game, which is just unrealistic. Those things are fucking rigged, but hey, I got a trophy. We are also reaching some of the end game palaces now, which is why I've been getting so many random trophies, because I'm trying my absolute best to get them all before it's too late in the game. Another one was from eating off of the secret menu at the Maid Cafe, and that's gotten by just going there a lot and buying the most expensive item. But then we reached the Spaceport Palace, which wasn't quite as hard as the Pyramid one in my opinion, at least in terms of maneuvering it and finding out where the hell you're supposed to go. But my god, this is probably one of the hardest boss fights in the game because you have a time limit, but that's not really the hard part. It's just beating the guy in general. And that's because before you can even damage the actual boss, he just spawns in 6 waves of enemies coming at you, and if you don't defeat them all within a few turns, they run away and it resets with full HP ones all over again. What makes this even more hard is that most of the enemies resist certain attacks, so you need a lineup of characters and moves that can actually do damage and win the battles. It was so bad it took me multiple hours to beat this guy that I had to resort to the lowest difficulty setting before being able to beat him and move on. Am I ashamed? Yes, but I did do it. And then we were back in reality, allowing me to grind out more trophies. The first one I got was from maxing a relationship with a character, and I did that with Anne, the legend herself, for a trophy. I also maxed out every single skill next, which I did way ahead of this game's ending, and I am very proud of myself. But that sadly made it so that I didn't really need to do anything else. I have basically gotten all the trophies I can right now, so I begin to just pass time in the game to end the Spaceport Palace because there's no real reason for me to do side activities. Sure, I could have used that time to level up, but I'm a speedrunner. I'd rather be punished with a harder fight being under leveled than miss out on quality time spent with your sister. So the next trophy I got was from finishing the Spaceport Palace, as you'd expect. And then during school, I got every single exam answer right with maxed out knowledge, as we know, which allowed me to be the top of my class, and I got another trophy from that right here. And we are now in the ending of the game pretty much, landing finally on the Casino Palace, which is where the game first took off with, if you remember. But this section was very dragged out and confusing, and that's mostly because I kind of strayed away from it to go do the Mementos grind, since I was afraid that I wasn't going to get all the trophies from that place done before it goes out of reach. So I did go to Mementos for a very long time, and I got a trophy first from encountering a deviation. This is just a random occurrence where the map is all weird and scary, but other than the trophy, it does nothing else. And I also fought the Reaper down here, which is arguably one of the strongest enemies in the game. But if you throw the game on safe mode like I have after getting my ass kicked, you can kind of just cheese the trophy because you cannot die. So that's cool, and here it is. I also took a break from the Mementos grind of gathering stamps for all upgrades for a minute, and instead went and did some fooling around in the jail world with persona fusing and executions for quite some time. But it got me 2 trophies during all of that, so that's nice. And by the way, Mementos, I know I said it was a grind, but the grind was from having to grab a shitload of stamps, which there's only 1 or 2 on each level to upgrade one of those skills all the way in the shop. And after finally doing it right here, I got the trophy from that. I then returned to finish up the Casino Palace, and we had a boss fight against some casino boss, but it was rigged. Like, quite literally, the dude was cheating and we had to cheat along with him to do damage. But once I beat the boss, the story finally caught up with the game's intro, and we found out that the kid who sold us out was this wannabe detective friend we thought we had, who was just backstabbing us from the very get-go. And I also got a trophy from the casino as well. And that's when the game's interest kind of stopped for me, because the rest of it just kind of felt like a drag on the story. I understand it was needed to finish it off, but it just felt way too long, and I got so bored in this part. The next palace was on a cruise ship, however, and it was actually very simple to do, so I did, and here's that trophy. I also got another story trophy from finishing off Mementos finally, which the game had us go back in for a secret level. It was a drag, but here's the trophy. I also got an auto story trophy from when Morgana reached level 10 with me involved, so that is cool. But the final trophies were then both from just finishing the final palace of the game and getting the true ending. Now, I've been setting up the true ending from the start like I teased in the intro, but the steps really aren't that complicated, and seeing as over 50% of people get it, I think it's safe to say that they're easy to do. Essentially, the game ends off with a massive fight against the counselor, who for some reason is like the chosen one evil version. And the fight was awful, like legit. It's the hardest fight in the game by far. And I have no clue how you beat it without going on the easiest difficulty mode like I am. Granted, I am severely underleveled and unprepared, but still, it was hard as balls. Also, it took me multiple hours to beat him and all of that as well. But once I did, I got the trophy from finishing every palace right here. However, that wasn't it, because there was another half an hour of just straight up filler playtime. Like, why? Why is this game such a drag? I at one point thought it wasn't going to end. Like, I would just sit here for eternity playing Persona 5 Royal, waiting for the credits to happen. But once I did reach the final cutscenes and credits, I again had to sit and wait, because you can't skip the credits. But that doesn't mean they're gonna force me to watch them because I walked away. Haha, take that, game. Anyways, once they did finish, I got the final trophy and the platinum trophy pop. So that was the Persona 5 Royal Platinum Trophy experience. My god, was that a long ass game. I don't think I've ever seen or played a game with so much story, cutscenes, and just filler time in it. I understand it was to lighten the story and make the lore bigger and brighter as well, but bro, I really do not care. Just let me fight is all I gotta say. Over 100 hours of cutscenes in a game is fucking insane. Now, hate me if you want for this rating, but I'm gonna give Persona 5 Royal a 6 out of 10. This game does not need to have 100 hours long of cutscenes. That is absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, sorry, but I'm also not sorry. That's insane, dude. That is insane.